Hello there! It has been a long time since my last video. Sorry for that, I was very busy with other things. Today I want to present to you a review of my Brompton Sea Line. It has been roughly a year since I've bought this bike. Cost me around 2000 euros and I made some extensions to it. And I've put around 1500 kilometers on it within a year. So this is not a full professional review, but rather I want to share some thoughts about the bike and some opinion about the bike after 1 year with you. So there are some things I want to point out that I like, some things I have a, let's say, neutral opinion about, but for which I would say they should be discussed, and then some things I don't like about this bike. As I'm riding the Brompton around here, the first major thing I want to point out is ride feeling. So how does this bike ride? In my opinion, the Brompton rides bad for a normal bike. But the Brompton is no normal bike, it's a folding bike, and for being a folding bike, it rides very well in my opinion. So you can accelerate quickly, you can even shift while standing with the internal gear hub, you can steer nicely, but there's still a, let's say, wobbly feeling to it with the long seat post and the long stem, because you have the small tires, so the contact points have to reach up quite far to get to you. So you definitely can't ride this bike without the hands on the handlebar. I can't ride this bike free-handed, I would immediately crash. So this maybe gives you an impression, if you have never ridden a Brompton before, that it's certainly not a very stable ride feeling. But again, for being such a small foldable bike, the ride feeling is still very nice. And also you can maintain a decent speed, I would say. What I have to point out though, with the 6 gears here, I often feel myself lost in between gears, and I sometimes wish to have more gears than these. So maybe take a look at the newer 12-speed Sea Line if you also think you would encounter this problem. Alright, and now arriving at a nice spot here. So what I have to say, that was very early in the morning when I did this recording, because I wanted to be at the Isar, but at the same time do not have a lot of people around me. I was successful. So one further thing I want to point out is I like the looks and the design of the bike. The silhouette is very iconic in my opinion, and everybody quickly recognizes it. Maybe some people would say this bike looks funny with the small tires, but I think now, especially when unfolded, it has a, in my opinion, appealing look. I don't know why. Let me know if you agree or disagree on that. Also, the geometry was fine to adjust to my size, where you can put the saddle fore and backward quite a lot on the seat post. Alright, some more detailed things. So I like the brakes and the fenders, which I'm showing here. Some people say these brakes don't have good modulation and are rather on-off, but I think they're fine. The fenders do an overall good job, but I've seen that when I was around on wet mud, that sometimes the front tire still makes the bottom bracket area of the bicycle a bit dirty. So they're fine, but not perfect, I would say. I like the brake levers. I had to really get used to their very low angle from my hand position, but now they're fine and I think they have a good leverage. Then I also like the paint of the bike. Somewhere I've read that the British Racing Green is Brompton's strongest paint. I don't know, but in my opinion it's definitely the most classy color for the Brompton, and I think it's very durable. These are the only two scratches I have so far where I touched the frame with my shoes. Also back there at the rear triangle it looks fine. There is however one point where I couldn't prevent any scratches on the paint, and this is where the little hook from the front wheel attaches to the rear triangle. Put some frame protection over there, but it was already too late. So do that right from the start if you want to 100% protect your paint on the Brompton. We are at the drivetrain side here, and I just want to share, I think the drivetrain and with all the cables and all the routing here looks very complex. That doesn't mean that I don't like it or like it particularly, but I think it looks very well thought out. I used the rear rack only for pulling the Brompton around, and I have to say the wheels I have a neutral opinion about. I think they are not particularly high quality, but they do their job just fine, also after 1 year. What I don't like so much is that there are so many plastics parts on the Brompton. So even though this bike cost me 2,000 euros, there's a lot of plastics. I think it's high quality plastics, also no problems so far with it, but for this price range I would have liked to have a bit more aluminium parts. Plastics here, plastics there. The derailleur is full plastics, so maybe you get what I'm trying to say. Sometimes I carry 10 kilos on the front bag, which is the maximum allowed, but it's still fine. And the bottom bracket shell is even made of plastics. I think all these plastics parts don't give the bike a very high quality looking overall look. Also the black seat post scratches a lot when there gets little dirt into where it's attached to the frame. You can't see it here perfectly, but it's also not so nice. I think a silver seat post would be a bit better. The Penta clip attaches the saddle to the seat post, and I had it replaced once because no matter how tight I had it, there was still a little bit of play. But with this one now everything is fine, and the problems also came in part from the frame being a bit dirty around the seat post. My chain and rear sprockets or cogs are still fine after 1,500 kilometers. Some people say the Brompton chain doesn't last really long, but I think it's still okay, and I also wouldn't want to change a chain after only that distance. I regularly wipe it off a bit and re-lube it. The folding pedal is really nice in my opinion, very intuitive, and I like also how it spins. Not perfect, but I would say it's fine. With front lights you have to know that they are mounted very low on the Brompton due to the small tires, so they don't unleash their full potential in terms of how big the lighted area is. So I was a bit disappointed when mounting this very bright light on the Brompton and having not a very big lighted area, so that's something you should know. I also attached a bicycle computer, and this is where I really learned how tight all the spaces are on the Brompton. There's not much space left to attach more things to the Brompton, because everything is so thought out already. The sensor for the bicycle computer sometimes is being turned around when folded, so that I don't have signal anymore on the bicycle computer, and that's very annoying. It's like when I fold the bike, sometimes here something from the rear derailleur moves the sensor inwards, and then I don't have a signal anymore. So that's a bit annoying that the Brompton is very limited in allowing more additions to it, in my opinion. The handlebar is fine, in my opinion. It's very narrow, it's not very wide. And also the grips are still okay after 1 year. Nothing to complain about. Here where the frame is attached together, I've lost some paint, but I think that's totally normal on these places. On the other hinge clamp, I have some rust on the inside. I'm very sure that I've never had water in there for a longer time, so I think it was just moisture. Yeah, but I think it's okay. The headset came loose once and everything was very wobbly then, but I had to retighten it, and since then it never came loose again. I was talking about the folding pedal before. The other normal pedal is of very low quality in my opinion, so that's also something that could be improved on a 2000 euro bike. I also lost the little seat post bumper somewhere. I think that's also not the best design, that this thing gets lost so easily. Now about the fold. I love the Brompton in its folded form. Again, it looks iconic in my opinion when folded, and it's very compact. It's not exactly small though. It's a small bike, yes, but still it's a big thing, let's say, when it's folded. And it's also heavy. At about 13 to 14 kilos, I can carry it around for, let's say, a minute, 2 minutes maximum, and then it gets insanely heavy. So I like to drag it behind me most of the time, and there the rear rack comes in really handy because of the extra 2 wheels. So these rear wheels you have with the rear rack are the ones I use the most. I lift it up in front and then only use these 2 rear wheels. So I highly recommend the rear rack to everybody, and I think it should be even stock on the normal Brompton and not an upgrade. The rear rack is not for carrying things around, but for dragging the Brompton behind you. Now to the folding process. I also got used to this very quickly, and it mostly takes me 15 to 20 seconds. Maybe sometimes I'm even faster. So I think you've learned it after 5 attempts or so, and then it becomes muscle memory and it's very easy to do. One thing I noticed is that you have to be careful with your back a bit, so don't lean forward too much in an unhealthy way, but otherwise it's very easy to do. And again, also the geometry is fine for me. This is the high handlebar version here, and I think I have a good reach on the Brompton and can cycle on it comfortably, even 20 kilometers or more in one go. Alright, so that's it with my little thoughts about the Brompton. I think there could be many more considerations, many more parts on the bike that could be discussed. But I still hope that this video helps you a bit, and feel free to share your opinions in the comments if you agree or disagree with certain points, if you have other things you would like to point out, which I forgot here. So I would be really happy to discuss and have this video here as some kind of experience about the bike and a collection of things which are nice to know before buying a bike like this, or also to discuss among owners of this bike. Then it was time for breakfast for me. Like, no coffee, no breakfast before. I was very hungry at that point. I made a little discovery also, a Kuwahara bicycle, so please somebody call Berlin to pick it up. First bakery I checked out, and then I noticed, oh no, that's the bakery I have at university. I associate too much with work, so I went to another one. The next one was still closed at this time. I only was able to see the nice pastries. So I had to go on and go on. But finally I found a bakery that had opened already and was able to get a nice coffee and a little snack and also some more stuff for proper breakfast at home. It's very neat that the Brompton can stand on its own when folded like this. First coffee of the day, even though that was no special coffee, still very enjoyable. And I love the view in the morning when there are not so many cars around. It's almost like a different city when there's not busy traffic. Very delicious. Alright, and some bonus feature of the Brompton. It's so nice to take the Brompton somewhere, like a rental car or a train, public transportation, then take the Brompton with you and go to your final destination without paying extra fees. In my case, the final destination was picking up a Kuvahara for free. Alright, and that's it for this video. I hope the review or my thoughts about the Brompton have helped you. Thank you for watching.